the place that made these refused to make them for me.
Oh, really?
Yes.
What? Oh,
no.
The liberal host of The View just pushed a whole victim story that turned out to be a hoax, and it's backfiring spectacularly. We're going to break down this wild story and so much more on today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast, my daily show where we take on the craziest ideas from across the internet, across our politics, and across the media, all from an independent perspective. First, we've got to check in on one of The View's most notorious liberal hosts, Whoopi Goldberg, who's going viral right now because she just played the victim on live television before millions of people, claiming that a local bakery discriminated against her because of her political views and refused to make her favorite desserts for her. Take a listen to the full original clip from The View that's sparking all this buzz.
My birthday dessert today was one of my mom's favorites from when she was a kid. And she talked about these all the time. They're called Charlotte Russe. And it's a sponge cake with whipped cream and a cherry on top. Now, I should tell you, Charlotte Russe has no political leanings. And the place that made these refused to make them for me.
oh, really?
Yes.
What? Oh,
No. Let me explain. They said that their ovens had gone down, all kinds of stuff, but folks went and got them anyway, which is why I'm not telling you who made them. But can't be because I'm a woman, but perhaps they did not like my politics.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because you know what? Listen, this is my mother's celebration.
Yeah.
Pick
Amen.
these up and celebrate with me and my mom. Thank you, everyone, for celebrating my birthday today. I want you all to have a great day. Take a little time to enjoy The View and never let folks get you down.
Yeah.
Well, isn't she just stunning and brave, dealing with true adversity and discrimination? You heard Whoopi's victim story, that she supposedly tried to get her favorite desserts from this local bakery, which she didn't name, but it's obviously identifiable and was quickly identified online as Holterman's Bakery, a famous local business on Staten Island. And in her telling, she was discriminated against for her political views, which, by the way, I thought folks like Whoopi thought that was fine. They didn't know, which, to be clear, I don't support. If that's what happened, I would say, hey, that's wrong. Like, we should live in a society where, yeah, you might have the legal right to turn people away for their political views, but I don't think it's very tolerant or open-minded, and we should want businesses that all actually serve everyone, regardless of who they vote for or what they believe. But it turns out the whole story is bullshit. She wasn't turned away because of politics. They had a problem with their boiler. And then when Whoopi's team called back days later, the equipment situation had improved and they were able to complete the order. Here's a clip of local Staten Island politician Vito Falasana, a Republican, who stood alongside the owner of this store at a press conference and said this.
Just a little background for those who know. They had a boiler here. Again, it's been here 145 years. They had a boiler that was 60 or 70 years old. And the first week in November, guess what? It went on the fritz. They had to be replaced. And the reputation of Holterman's is impeccable, so rather than commit to something they couldn't guarantee, they said we can't do it. And the person who besmirched and defamed them took that as an insult to her. Well, get over it. This family will be here for, God willing, another 145 years. And as Jill said, it's her family, it's the Staten Island community, it's the elected officials. And I hope if you're watching this across the country, go online and order something and we'll mail it to you.
Now, thankfully, it actually seems that this business, Holterman's Bakery, is getting an outpouring of support with massive long lines of people lining up outside the store to show their support and tons of online orders coming in because they were just defamed and insulted and smeared by this huge celebrity with an adoring audience of millions based on a wild stretch that was never actually based in fact. Whoopi made a massive assumption and then just casually tossed it out there on live TV willy-nilly, which isn't really what journalists or political commentators even are supposed to do, at least not responsible ones. You know, Whoopi messed up because a Democratic state senator from her own side of the aisle called her out on live television. Take a listen.
I think it was such a ridiculous thing to do. Inserting herself into a conversation about a local business And coming after a business, especially as a celebrity, can be incredibly dangerous. But the Staten Island community comes together. It was really self-serving, very self-centered. Businesses aren't thinking about Whoopi Goldberg. They're thinking about how to make sure they get out the best pastries as you see them right in the screen in front of you. They were able to get them. So instead of focusing on something positive, she made it about herself. Yeah, it absolutely is. And listen, I'm a customer of Holterman's Bakery, and I always tell people I'm a Democrat. I'm a normal Democrat. Holterman's never refused to serve me. They just had a broiler issue. They're a wonderful business, a wonderful family, and we're proud to have them here on Staten Island. And now you can see business is booming.
But Whoopi doesn't seem to be taking any actual accountability, let alone apologizing or clearing the air. She's doubling down, as she did in this bizarre video released to Instagram.
So there seems to be a lot of talk about the dessert I requested for my birthday show. I never mentioned the name of the bakery or the location. It does seem a little odd that when we called a few weeks before my birthday and we were told they couldn't process the order for my birthday because of an equipment failure, but somehow they were able to accept an order of a different 48 of the same dessert when somebody else called without using my name. But it's all okay, y'all, because I enjoyed my delicious dessert and I had a happy, sweet birthday. Nothing better than that.
I think it's really disgraceful that she won't just admit she was wrong and apologize for running her mouth without the facts. I mean, she literally didn't even get it right. She said they had an issue with their oven when it was their boiler, which is not, in fact, the same thing. But I'm glad that Whoopi's getting called out for this gross, casual lie, and if anything, she'll be lucky to avoid a lawsuit over it. But the reason this story stood out to me is because of what it reminds us about celebrity and media culture and the perverse way they've turned victimhood into something of a form of social currency. It's like they value you more or view you as special or worthy of extra sympathy or support if you are somehow a victim. So what you then, the perverse result of that is that you have incredibly privileged multi-millionaire celebrities like Whoopi Goldberg twisting themselves into pretzels, finding ways to pretend to be a victim, even though they're actually one of the most privileged human beings to exist in the history of mankind. That's not healthy. That's not good. That's not a constructive incentive structure or ecosystem, but it's one that's dominant in so much of progressive social media echo chambers, mainstream media echo chambers, and just liberal elite culture more broadly. This story also shows what a exaggerated sense of self-importance folks like this have, as if Staten Island bakeries that are just working hard to keep the lights on and keep their employees employed are really worried about some daytime TV host's political views. They might know Whoopi from her acting career more so than her political views. And regardless, it's Staten Island, not rural Alabama. So even though the area she lives in may have gone for Trump, I'm sure she still interacts with liberal customers and clientele all the time. We've really got to fix whatever has gone wrong in our culture where people want to be victims. For a long time, we stigmatize victims, and in some contexts, we still do today. And that's really harmful and toxic because it prevents people from coming forward and being open and honest about their experiences and pursuing accountability and justice. But you also can't let the pendulum swing to the opposite extreme, where all of a sudden you're valorizing victims as if something bad happening to you is not just, something that happens that you shouldn't be stigmatized for, but is something that should, for some reason, be cheered on or celebrated as if you have accomplished something. That's also distorted and perverse in its own right. And it creates this kind of bizarre phenomenon where obviously this is maybe a less extreme example, but a more extreme example would be Jussie Smollett, who was a privileged multi-millionaire actor who literally staged a hate crime against himself. A culture that incentivizes victimhood so much that people are faking crimes against themselves or inventing fake stories to paint themselves as victims with some regularity, both online and in mainstream media, and somehow not facing that much accountability for it. Like like, will Whoopi really get in any trouble for this? I doubt it. That's a broken culture. And that's far more concerning to me than any controversy over desserts. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and do hit that like button while you're at it. Remember, I pick a few comments to respond to in every episode, and if you leave your comment with a super chat or a super thanks, I'll definitely respond to it on tomorrow's show.